So good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's class. So as I said yesterday, it's going to be a quick one. Let me ask today, what time do you have any meeting today in terms of meeting mentor so that I can know when my time stops? Anyone to answer me, please?
I think the session is 8 to 10. Uh,
Eh?
I
It's to
think
10.
8 to 10, ma. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Good. That's fine. So today is still a continuation of our manual testing. But today, predominantly, we'll be talking about test scripts, how to design test scripts, what it involves in terms of test coverage at large. So that's what I'll be talking about today. As I've said, a recap of any topic that I've taught previously, please watch the class, previous classes. I'm not going to do much of a recap today. I'm just going to go straight to what we have today. So I'll start again by what is test script, which I was explaining yesterday. I started scratching this yesterday. And so I said test script is a set of instruction that is performed on a system under test to verify that the system performs as expected. That is what the test script is about. It's just for us to validate that everything we have designed, all the steps that we have brought into it, is working as expected. That's what the test script is going to be. We are going to take a case study where we are going to work on it, and I will explain some things also further in the class. They can be written in either human language, which is used for manual testing, what we are doing, what we are going to do currently today, or a script or programming language. I'm also going to talk about that today. That will involve white box testing, used for automation testing. A test script is a part of test case, and a test case can have either a single test script or multiple test scripts. So they can have either a single test script, it could be multiple test scripts linking each test scripts to each other, or that's predominantly what a script is. But I know this is kind of much information. You will understand what I am explaining when you see it in practical. Just have it that is a set of instruction that is performed on a test, a system under test. What is a system under test? A system under test is, for example, you are going to be working on a project. You will be in a project group. When you are given the project to work on, once they've start developing that system, that is a system under test. That is a system you'll be testing. So the only thing you want to do is to validate it, verify it, that is working as expected. That is what a test script is. Each test script provides a different way to test the test scenario in the test case. For instance, a test case might require several scripts to test the scenario in different environments. Both manual and automated scripts exist to exercise the test case. So that takes us to understanding test case design. What is test condition? An item or event of a component or system that could be verified by one or more test cases. Yesterday, if you can remember, I took my case study from we making it more of a layman, a good understanding, just a scenario that you will understand what I was saying was that I said, take an example that you've gone to the reception. I mean, you've gone to the hospital. When you get to the surgery, you the first place you enter is the reception to let them know, oh, this is what you have come for. In when you get to the reception, The receptionist will ask you, what have you come to do today? The first thing you'll be asked is that, what are your details? You give them your name. I want to see the doctor. What is the reason? Yesterday, I said stomach pain was the major reason the patient went to the doctor, to the hospital, to the surgery. So by the time it takes that condition, what that person has said stomach pain is the test condition. What the receptionist will write under your profile or in your note is that she's visiting, he or she is visiting because of stomach pain. That is the test condition. So let's take it to test case. I said a test case is a set of input value, execution, preconditions, expected results, and execution post-condition developed for a particular objective or test conditions, such as to exercise a particular program part or to verify compliance within specific requirement. How does this work? Now, when the receptionist asks the patient to say, you've got stomach pain, the expectation of the receptionist is that he will tell you, please go and sit down and wait for the doctor to call you. But before doctor calls you, he needs to know what the next patient is coming in for. Now, the doctor will start writing his test cases. Oh, the test condition here is stomach pain. Then the next thing is start writing his test step. What are his test steps? What are the descriptions? The first thing he wants to ask the patient is that when he or she comes in, when the doctor touches the stomach, is the patient feeling the pain? The doctor's expectation is that the patient should not feel any pain. That's his expected result. Now, the next thing is that he will think about it again. The patient should shake his body to see whether it's paining him when he's shaking the body. The doctor's expectation is that when you're shaking your body, your stomach shouldn't hurt you. So his expectation is that the stomach should not hurt the patient. The third scenario is that the doctor could give the patient water to drink to say, when you're drinking this water, do you feel this pain? The doctor's expectation is that the patient shouldn't feel the pain. So the doctor has written his 3 test cases. So he knows the question he's going to ask. That's his test case. So then the next thing is he calls the patient in. Now, the test cases, you understand now, are values. These are the things that he derived from the test condition. These are steps, preconditions that he has derived from the stomach pain. So he must have checked, oh, these are symptoms. These are things that could cause stomach pain. So he has written those steps so that he will be able to ask the patient when he sees him. That takes us to the third part. I gave this example, but I'm not going to talk about the example now until I bring it back to the world. So let's take it to the next level, which is test procedure specification, which is also known as test script. It's called a sequence of actions for the execution of a test. Now we know our test condition, we've written the test cases, we've written the expected result. That's what the doctor has written, the expected result and the test step. Now, he calls in the patient. Patient A, go to room 6. Patient A enters room 6. When he gets to see the doctor, hello, you are here because of stomach pain. Yes. My first condition to you is that, can you lie down? on the bed. When I touch your stomach, is it paining you? No, doctor, it's not paining me. Then that's where it goes to the actual result. At the actual result, he writes it, working as expected, is not paining him. Then the next task is that after he's written that line, there is a status column, pass or fail. Is it what the doctor is expecting that happened to the patient? Yes, so it's passed. He puts the pass condition there. Then the next thing he tells him, shake your body. When you shake your body, are you feeling the pain? The patient says, no, I'm not feeling that pain. So the actual result here now is he's not feeling the pain. So it's working as expected. What's happening now? Pass or fail is passed. Now the doctor gives the patient a cup of water. Can you drink this water? He takes the water. Oh, doctor, I'm feeling a sharp pain. The doctor's expectation is that he or she shouldn't feel that pain. But now he's feeling the pain. So at this time, it's not the expectation of the doctor. So it's now what we are saying is that when the patient drinks it, it's not working as expected. It means that when he drinks the water, he's having a pain. So our condition here is because it has not met what the expectation of the doctor is, then it didn't pass. So it fails that condition. That's the way test case, test script. So because we have executed everything, we have seen the patient, we have put a pass or fail, everything that is in that spreadsheet, because it's been executed, actual result has been filled. That makes it a test script. So now, let me bring it back to our own testing world. I'll give an example of a login. This is where I'm going to deal. So in the login, there are various scenarios that it entails when it comes to login. For example, the first thing is a valid, in the login page, there are things in the login page. We've got the username, password. So your expectation is that if you've got a valid username, valid password, when you hit submit button or login button or sign in button, it should take you to the landing page. That's the expectation. Once it's valid username, valid password, all good. It goes in as expected. But when you have invalid username and let's say invalid password, wrong. When you hit the submit button or login button or sign in button, your expectation is that it should throw an error to say invalid password, invalid username and password. If you use a valid username and an invalid password, then you hit the submit button, it should pop up to say invalid password. Either way, if you use an invalid username and a valid password, it should pop up, error message should be displayed to say invalid username. So that's what it should bring. This is an example of a test case. This is you understanding what a test condition is, what a test case is, what a script is. So that takes us to advantages of detailed test condition. One, more flexibility in relating other test work product. Take an example, stomach pain. There was flexibility. There was different steps that we could hit towards that stomach pain. Take the other example of the login. I've given you like 5 scenarios, 5 combinations: valid, valid, invalid, valid, valid, invalid, invalid, valid, invalid, invalid, valid. So these are combinations. So it gives it more flexibility in relating other tests. Then better and more details monitoring and control. So you can be able to get good coverage when you have those test conditions. You can monitor everything. You can be sure that I have hit every combination, every valid reason, anything that needs to be tested has been touched in one way or the other. It contributes to defect prevention by occurring earlier. So if, for example, sorry, can you meet? Let's take an example that if the only scenario we did for login was just valid, valid, and we didn't touch every other scenario, I can tell you that once a negative test is done on that, it's going to break the whole application. So, but because I've given you like 5 combinations, then it will prevent every error from coming. We will catch the bugs early. Because now we know that when we have invalid password, we have it. The other thing you can check what special characters can be used. How many characters can be used? What are the combination? Is it alphanumeric? What does alphanumeric, both alphabet and numbers? Is it numeric only? Is it alpha only? So it depends if it's alphabet only. So we need to know what the combinations are. It should be stated as part of the information when users are actually creating or registering on that. The other thing is that relates testing work products to stakeholders in terms that they can understand. So now it's easier. They know the condition. So when they see login, so the only thing, once the users, once the stakeholders, once the clients, once they see login, they know that the test condition, what we are actually testing here is the login scenario. So immediately everybody can visualize and know that this is what they are testing. So it gives them a term, it holds it that, oh, they are testing login, they are testing the stomach pain, they're testing search functionality, adding to cart. All these are the things. Influences and directs other testing activity, but also other development activities. So it leads to you directing it leads to different steps, different ideas, different things coming out from the testing activity. Also, it enables test design, implementation, and execution fundamental test process to be optimized by efficient coverage. That is the essence of we getting a test condition for good and efficient coverage. We've got the design phase, implementation, execution test phase. So all these things are the things, the test conditions are what will help us to be able to get a good test coverage. Basis for clearer horizontal trace. So you have taken login. In that login, you can see all the steps, the combinations that you want to put together. It is easier for you to trace them horizontally. So login, in the login, this is the first step we have tested, valid, valid. The next one, invalid, invalid, valid, invalid, invalid, valid. So those are the things that you got blank, blank. All those things are the things that we can test within a test level. So that takes us to what is test case? They are often predefined sets of instruction addressing the steps to be taken in order to determine whether or not the end product exhibits the desired outcomes. They are predefined steps, set of instructions addressing the steps to be taken in order to determine whether or not the end product exhibits the desired outcome. So let's look at the example that we have. Stomach pain. Because the doctor wants to make sure that he has tested everything so that you don't come again. Because if the doctor does not do his due diligence, there's every possibility the patient will come or it might cause harm. What are the consequences of not testing properly? Is loss of life, injury, death, loss of business reputation. All these are what the doctor is also considering. And hence, he needs to do his own due diligence to ensure that everything is tested accordingly. Hence, he needs to put those predefined steps out first so that at least he would know that I have tested all this properly with the patient before he can ascertain that, oh, it's really a stomach pain. You can't just, if he drinks water, he does everything. If it doesn't work, the next thing it leads to a blood test. After a blood test, it leads to a scan. They need to make sure everything is all right. You can't be complaining of stomach ache, headache, chest pain without we digging deep to know what is actually wrong with the patient. Likewise, we too. You cannot be complaining that the login is not working as expected. Is glitching, is not going through, there's error messages coming in sometimes. This has to be looked at. It cannot be overlooked. And hence, that's the reason for the test steps. This instruction may include predefined sets of inputs, conditions, along with respective and results. With their respective results. So the next thing is, however, in order to be true with one's testing, one could often end up with too many test cases. To avoid such scenario, one should find the best test case design techniques, which we are going to speak about again tonight, as per one requirement, so as to reduce the significant number of test cases. Let's take an example. If you are told to test number from 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's easy to test those numbers. So you can pick 1 and test 1, 2, test it, 3. In that sequence, you can test it. Within maybe half an hour, you can finish testing, or let's say an hour, you finish testing 10. Now, let's move it further. If you say test 1 to 100, 1 to 100, if you calculate using 1 hour for 10, so times 10, 10, 10, 100, that will take you another 10 hours to test 100. It's still good, 10 hours is still viable. So let's take it 1,000. That's already, test from number 1 to 1,000 is already taking you like maybe 2 weeks to test it. So if 1 to 1,000 is taking 2 weeks, it's still very good. You might say, oh, it's still good. Yeah, 2 weeks is still good. 1 to 1 billion. How many years do we want to use to test it? When will the numbers come out if we use that? Hence, that is where it brings us to a good test case design technique, which I'm going to explain also tonight. So Because we don't want to be making all the test cases so many that you test number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 200, 500, 700, 1 million, 2 billion. So it's much. Hence, there are systems which we are going to discuss tonight how to write the test case. This test case design techniques helps create effective test cases covering the various features that determines the quality and value of a product. That is the reason for that test case design technique you would go to. So now, writing a good test case, what does it entail? How will you know you're writing a good test case? As far as possible, write test case in such a way that you test only one thing at a time. Don't make it too ambiguous. Don't make it too complex. Don't bring everything together. Let it do one thing at a time. Don't muddle things up. Don't overlap it. Just ensure that things are not. If you said invalid name and invalid username and invalid password, let it be only thing you are testing, so that we know that is the only thing you are testing. Don't bring invalid name, invalid password, bring 20 things together. It's confusing. Do not overlap or complicate test cases. Attempt to make the test case atomic, just small, little. Make it as simple as possible. That's what the word atomic is. Make it very small, the way an atom is. If you look at it in chemistry, very little. Make it as simple as precise. That's the reason for that. Ensure that all positive scenarios and negative scenarios are covered. You can see I did a valid and valid. That is the happy part, positive type. Every other thing aside that I've given you were negative scenarios. That is the way you can break a system. Happy part is always sweet. It's just for them to say, happy part, do this, taste the food, a lovely food. It will be sweet, where all the ingredients are superb. That food will be sweet. That's the positive type part because of it. But now, taste a food where it is over salty. It will never be the same. So that's where you want to break. So you want to add too many salt, too many seasoning, too many spices. So we want those are the way to break that food. So what are the languages? 1, write a simple and easy to understand language. English, if that's what, make it simple and that's what you're going to see the way I'm going to design it tonight. Use active voice instead of passive voice. Do this, do that. Active instead of passive. Use exact and consistent name of forms, fields, etc. If on your field it was written sign in, stick to sign in. Don't use submit button. If it's login that is there, stick to that name. Don't bring what I am saying. You say that I mentioned login, I mentioned sign in, I mentioned submit. It could be they are all still same thing, but make sure what you're seeing is the exact thing you're putting. This is way to say you're writing good test cases. So what is the characteristics of a good test case? 1, is accurate, exact the purpose, the exact purpose. The second thing is economical. No unnecessary step or word. The third thing is traceable. It's capable of being traced to requirement. RTM, requirement traceability matrix. Don't just write a test that is not linked to any test. It doesn't work that way. So we work with what we are given. Repeatable. Can be used to perform the test over and over. You can use it. Go to www.bootsky.com. Do this. You give the URL. Navigate, click on the sign in button. We can repeat it over and over. Reusable. It can be reused if necessary. So if you want to use the login, or if you want to use the scenario, we can reuse it at any time. So these are the things I want you to know: accurate, economical, traceable. It should be repeatable and reusable. That's the characteristics of good test case. So designing test case. So now, before I start, I'm going to start this now. I'll do a quick on the Excel for you, a practical work. Then we will continue further on our test case technique. So this is an example of a script, of a test case. It's not a script yet. So this is an example of a test case. This is an high-level one, and we are just going to, this same idea is what we are going to use. So now that takes me to where I have opened my spreadsheet for tonight. So in my spreadsheet this night, I'm just going to I'll take this part to just build up something. You can see the way I'm doing it. Just go there, just a manual bit. Look at the border so that you can have something nice and concise. Inside here, I just need to insert, because I want to write some more things there. Let me merge and center. I'll take the border there. So let's take our test case. I hope you all can still see my screen. So today, go to, I'm going to use, let me use Giftread, giftread.com. So for tonight, this is just my own test case. The website. Now, I'm saying this because I know this class is being recorded and I want it to be recorded. I'm going to say this. This website is being developed already. It's a live website. We as testers, when you're working on, it depends on the project you start working on. If it's a greenfield, what does greenfield? Nothing has been developed. Nothing has been developed. We don't have any website. We don't have anything. Requirements have just been gathered. Everyone is still mainly nothing happening yet. But we've gotten the requirements now. Development is starting. We as testers, we work with what we have in the requirement. We work with our user stories. We have not seen the system, so we start creating our scripts. There is nothing. If you want to develop a website, if you go to Google, it will give you 1,000 and it will give you a lot of ideas about how to test a website. So there's nothing that is going to be developed that is not in this world. So there will be an example that you can learn from. So our expectation is that if you're working on a greenfield, you are not seeing the application. Then you design it. Then when the application is developed, you can start updating your test script to feed into it. Maybe you have written search or create as that. Maybe what is on the website is register. You just need to change those variables, those values to what is currently to fit what is in the website. That's your expectation. But for today, we are using a website that is live, is already been done. So we are using Giftrate. So now what we want to do here is, I'll give an example that I want to sign in. So this is my sign in button. When I click the sign in button, it takes me to this page, which is the sign in page. I put my email. So the same thing, I'm not going to, for now, I'll still take this out. So it's going to request for my email address, password, then it says log into your account. That is what is going to, this is what we want to do. And I want to be able to see that account. That's what we want to test now. So the first thing is that I'll go back to the landing, to this page. So this is the website. So we want to, this is our case study. I'll go back to my script. Giftrate. So at this phase now, I'm just making things, I always like things very clean. That's just me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now the next step that we have to do is that we create, I'm not going to give you some ideas because tonight I'm going to give an assignment. I want you to be creative. I'm only doing a simple one. Don't use my own style. I want you to be creative when you bring it to the class for me, when we do our workshop to reveal this. I want to see various ideas. So the next step is that I'll write maybe my test case ID. The next step will be test steps or description. Oh. So that's the next thing will be test condition. Don't forget, test condition will be the first one. After test condition, the next thing we're going to have is our test steps. So test steps, that's description. I need to copy. So the next step will be expected result. The next one will be actual result, then the status, which will either pass or fail. So let's take this again. Let me stop here. Make it bold. Let's give it a 12 so that you guys can see. So this is we now. So this is predominantly, this is what we want to do. So I've done an eye level. This is an eye level to say, this is, bring it further so that you can see. So this is an eye level, and you can see just the eye level, but there is also low level, there are given when then, but this is when you're writing the script, we expect these headers to be there. We expect you to know that this is the, and if you look at it, these are things I've been mentioning right from the beginning of the course. So this is just a simple way to put your script, which everyone can understand. They know what is going to entail in the script. So as today, our case study from here is this place, and that's where we are going to start from. So now, the first thing we did was to type in www.godom. So now that I will go back here. So this is my first test one. Let's say it could be, I could make it a test case ID. So TST01, I'm just putting it that way. Yours might be different way of formatting it. If, for example, I'm working on this project is gift read, I can change it to say GIF01. That's fine. If I want it for gift 01, so it depends on how you want to name it. So my condition here is, first thing is that I want to log in, and the login is happy part. I want to do happy part. So I want to log in with valid details. That's it. So the first step I'm going to do is go to HTTP, that's the URL, and this thing. What is my expectation? My expectation is the home page should be displayed, which you can see. Gift treat home page is displayed. So the next thing is, after I go to the home page, click on the sign in button. When I clicked on the sign in button, what will happen? Sign in page is displayed. Enter username as test1. username entered. So I'm going to stop. I'll navigate back to what we have done. So remember these 3 steps we have done. We said go to gifttree.com. Gifttree homepage is displayed. I said click on the sign in button. Sign in page is displayed. Enter username as this. Username entered. That's, you can see the more, as I'm doing my description, I'm putting my expected results. So now go here. So let me take it back. Control X, close here, close here. Let's follow the step. Go to the http www.ankit. When you enter, click on sign in. Sign in page is displayed. So I said enter username. Here it says enter email address because email address. I need to go back here to change mine to enter email address. As test@test.com. Please ensure you use a valid one. So here I change it back to email address entered. After we enter email address. So I'm going to use real one. So the next thing is enter password. Let's navigate back. I expect you to type it, please. I expect you to type it yourself. The more you type it, gets it better. Enter password as test. 1, 2, 3, 4, exclamation. Password entered. After you enter the password, I don't want to remind me. So the next thing is click on log into your account. So it says click on log in to your account. I think so. So when you click on login into your account, what is our expectation? Our expectation is that if everything seems right, then I should be able to log in. I hope I can remember. Yeah, so I can log in. It means once I log in, then the landing page should be displayed. The dashboard should be displayed. So Gifttree landing page is displayed. So that is our test case. So Media Center is just mainly tidying up just for things to look good. So this is our test case that we have written. Once these steps have been we have just written it based on what we have here. So let me log out of here. I'm logging out because I don't want to log in. So this is happy part because I'm logging in with valid details. So this is our test ID. This is number one thing that we want to, number one feature that we want to work. And I've taken my test condition as login. And I said I'm logging in with valid details. My test steps or description are each step I'm going to take to be able to log in with these valid details. My expected result is the expectation, what we are expecting to happen when we try to log in. This is our expectation. Now, I've not done my actual, I've not done my status. My first question, you can unmute and answer me. Is this a test script? Who wants to go first?
No.
Evie, you said what?
I said no because it's not complete.
Correct. And why did you say it's not complete?
Because we don't have the actual result yet.
Correct. Actual result, and what else is left?
I can't see the board again.
Huh?
And the status.
Fantastic. So this is, Evie is right. This is still a test case. So now, as she has said, it is not a script yet until these two parts have been filled. So that takes me back to my body here. We have just written the first script. So this is our test script. This is our test case. Now that takes us to the next step, which is our test script. This is a script because it is complete. So now I go back to this board. How do we complete this script? I told you initially that because this website is live, sometimes you might not have a website. You need to design, you need to write these things that I've said. Just think about it and put it down. When you have the website, you see, I wrote username initially, believing that is username and password. But when I got to look at the system itself, the application itself, I found that it's got an email address. It's not a password. I had to change the variable. I had to change that value, the parameter there. I needed to change it from username to email address. So now, having said that, we want to make this our own test case to be a script. What we are going to do now is I want to start executing it. So the first test is been given to a tester to test it. So the first step, the tester will go. Now you reading this as a tester, it's easier for you to be able to test it because it's simple. Every information, every input, every preconditions are already in the test. I just didn't put the right things here because I know mine. I don't want to put it. It's a live show, so I cannot put my details here. So the first thing is that we'll go to this place and let's start with how to execute it. So I'm going to take it that we are logging in that way. So let's close back, start all over again. So you said go to Dtree.com. So when we go here, page is displayed. So our execution. So this is us now. We are executing our test. So are we seeing the home page now? Yes, we are seeing the home page. So what is our actual result? Is working as is working as expected. Is it a pass? Is it a pass or fail? It's a pass. Again, I click on the sign in. Sign in page is displayed. Is it correct? Working as expected. Is it a pass or fail? It is a pass. Actual result is working as expected, or better still, I like to give the details to say again, gift rate home page is displayed. Same here, I will tell you, just put it. Sign in page is displayed. It's a pass. After I sign in, I'm just going to use my details. Then I would log in. So I enter the password. So my expectation is that the landing page is fine. So now my expectation is, what's the next thing? So email address, entered. Then the next thing is
Hi, Yemi.
password. Yes, please. Entered.
The expected result and actual result are the same thing.
Yeah, it could be, because that's what we are expecting. It's working as expected. It's the same thing.
I was wondering, the expected result, should be displayed instead of is displayed?
So you are saying that expected result, gift rate on page should be displayed. Fantastic. Yeah. So expect actual results will now be, this is what we are saying, the current thing we are saying is displayed. Please, who talked, who was the person that, if you were hit one? Dorcas, fantastic. Thank you, Dorcas, for that. So it's gift rate on page should be displayed. Sign in page should be displayed. Enter password, enter then this, the landing page also should be displayed. Thank you for that. So that then this is now email address entered, password entered. So all this are passed. So the last thing is when you the landing page, then gift rate landing page is displayed. So all this is event is all passed. Now, which means all your tests here passed. Let's say, for instance, this failed. Before we do that, this is now eventually, it has turned to a script. This is a test script because everything has been executed. All fields, we have already used it. I've been able to page. This is now a script. Of course, there are things that can still be in the script. You might be asked in an interview, what other fields, aside from these 6 fields that you're seeing here, what other fields can be added to a script? You can put test data. All these things that I've written here could be another column to add test data. So you put the test data to be in another column. You can also add test environment to it. These are other fields if you want to make it as detailed as possible. Comment section can be there. The tester, name of tester can be there. So I've just given you examples of other fields that can be here. That's if you want to do it more of a bigger spreadsheet, you are giving it to people to test. If they are using the spreadsheet, then it needs to be of that length to say, at least, no matter how it is, add a comment session, add test data session, add you tested by session, right? Add a column tested by, so that whosoever's tested it, you can capture it. So you can add their name to the spreadsheet, and that is a whole script. Now, this takes us to how you can write it. Now, this whole thing has passed. If maybe your manager asks you that, with this now, you've written like 5 steps, 5 scripts. The only thing is that how many % of it passed? You said predominantly. 100% passed. For instance, this failed. Then 80% passed. This failed. 20% failed, or is blocked, or is that. But all the details that you have here is more of a script. Now, this same script, I'm now going to convert it to I'll do this script in terms of me bringing it up to another pace of that. But before we go, what's the time? 15. I'll take you back. You can still ask me a question about this at the end of it. I'll come back to it. I'll write that. But let's go further to our. So that's the script in a nutshell. So let's go down here. So categories of test case design technique. So that is what leads us to the test case design technique. This is quite needed because of everything we have done. First one is black box testing. The next one is white box testing. Just these two, you can see black box, white box. Just put that picture just to see. Black box, white box. Continuation of it. Black box is specification-based technique. Specification. You are given a specification. It's called specification-based technique. There are features you can see. So you need to know 5 specification-based techniques for this foundation certificate. I'm going to explain the 5 to you. The first one is equivalent partitioning. The next one is BVA, boundary value analysis. The next one is decision table. The next one is state transition testing. And the last one is use case testing. So what is structure-based? Structure-based is white box technique. This one is predominantly code. So is structure-based techniques are used to explore system or component structure at several levels. At the component level, the structure of interest will be program structures such as decisions. At integration level, we may be interested in exploring the way components interact with other components. So that's what I was explaining in the test level yesterday, when I mentioned the four test level: unit testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance testing. This is where it is coming into now. So that interaction, the integration, is what is on structure based. That is what is white box testing. That takes us further to more categories of test case design, which is experience-based technique. And this experience-based technique, it falls under 2 ways. They are experience-based, using your experience. I gave you an example of website. We have used Giftrit now. If another organization or someone wants to do a similar website like Giftrit, they don't need to go further. They go online. When they get online, they will search for Giftrit that provides this. I mean, website that provides this. You'll get a lot of websites that will come up, and you can, from there, be able to use those experience to gather and design your own script. So experience-based technique are those that you fall back on when there is no adequate specification. So when you don't have specification, when you don't have requirements, when you don't have user story, and you are given to say, oh, this is the type of website we are going to develop. This is what it entails. This is what it entails. Your experience, maybe you've tested website previously. You have an advantage because you know the experience. You have an experience of how a website looks like. Every one of us, if I tell you that how many websites have you logged on into, you know vast types of websites. Hence, you can test various websites. So with your experience, it will give you a lot of things to be able to gather requirements. So if you are told to test a website now, there is no specification, nothing. The first thing is that you have login as a feature, search functionality, adding to cart if it's an e-commerce environment, looking, you can navigate through it. These are basic things when you test website. You will check, looking at all the cookies, all the social media icons on there. Are they working, the footer, the headers, everything, just to ensure that they are all navigating to the right places. These are a way to use your experience to do that. So experience-based technique are those that you fall back on when there is no adequate specification from which to derive specification-based test case, or no time to run the full structured test. So the first one is error guessing. Error guessing is a very simple technique that takes advantage of a tester's skill. How? It takes advantage of his skill, his intuition, and experience with similar application to identify special tests that may not be easy to capture by the more formal technique. Let's take an example. You have tested login. You know how login works. That experience is what you are going to put in the website that you are testing, that there is no specification, nothing. So you will know that in that phase, all this combination, valid, invalid, positive, negative scenarios, all this are the things you bring together when it comes to error guessing, testing that. Then the next thing is exploratory testing. What is explorating? Explore. Let me test it. I'm just exploring it. I'm playing with it. I want to know more of it. That's what it entails. Exploratory testing is a technique that combines the experience of tester with a structured approach to testing where specifications are either missing or inadequate, and where there is severe time pressure. So you need to, this will, though you need the experience, but when you're exploring, it's more like you playing. Start bringing all your experience. You know the login. I don't know. I know most of you might have not used this application before. You have not used this application before. But you can get in here, try and log in because you have the URL. Start playing with it. Oh, let me navigate. What is in the home? What is in the recycle bin? What is in the committee? You start playing with everything. That is, you are exploring the system. That's exactly what you're doing. So after this is done, then the next thing is, let's take it one at a time. I told you initially, specification-based is black box testing and is also popularly known as black box testing technique. In this design technique, the test cases are written by taking the client's functional requirements and specification into consideration. The internal workings of the product are irrelevant. So there are 5 of them that we are going to look at now. So it's further divided into 1, which I've said, equivalent partitioning technique, boundary value analysis, which is called BVA. So another twin that I want you to understand, interview question. If you're going for manual testing, all the manual testing, automation testing, all those twins that I'm giving you, they are going to ask you there. I'm certain. Where people make mistake again are these 2: equivalent partitioning, boundary value analysis. Equivalent partitioning technique and boundary value analysis. 2 of them, please jot them down again. The next thing is decision table technique, and I said state transition testing technique and use case testing technique. Let's take the first one, equivalent partitioning technique. So what is it? Equivalent partitioning testing allows you to divide set of test conditions into a partition, which should be considered the same. This software testing method divides the input domain of a program into classes of data from which the test cases should be designed. So what we are going to do now is that I'll give you examples for you to be clearer. Equivalent, equal. That is what it, equivalent partitioning, equal partitioning. So it divides it into the same places. Let's take an example. One minute, sorry. Just trying to fix my charger. An example is, first, let's consider an application that we validate password. So now We are used to password login. Third, we are used to the website functionality. So the requirement in this is that for your password to be valid, it should contain a minimum of 8 characters. Note, 8 characters. It should be alphanumeric. That's the second condition. And the third thing, it should have at least 1 special character. 3 things to be considered. First, character, it should be minimum of 8. Alphanumeric, both alphabet and numbers. Special character, exclamation, asterisk, dollar, pounds, the likes. Those are special character. In this case, the input can be in different equivalent partitions, such as valid inputs, meeting the specified criteria. Invalid input, where one category contains 8 characters, all alphabets. So that's our expectation. So the next one will be, another category is, it contains 8 characters, all numeric, all numbers. Don't forget, alphanumeric. So why another partition could be 8 characters containing only special character? While another one could be only alphanumeric without note character. While another one could be alphabets and character without numbers. The list is endless. So the first part is the valid input, happy part, positive scenario. Subsequently, we started bringing the criteria. Subsequently, we started bringing the character in to say where one category contains 8 characters, you test it. I will take it minimum. In fact, try 7 characters. It should not work. That is the way you test equivalent partitioning. Then, remember, it allows you to divide sets of test conditions into a partition. Once you remember this example, you won't mix boundary value analysis and equivalent partitioning together because they look like, what is an example? So I'm giving you an example of it. Let's say, let's give an example of input conditions are valid. Input conditions are valid between 1 to 10, 1 to 10, remember conjunction, and there's nothing in between them, 20 to 30. So 1 to 10, 20 to 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jump, 20, 21, 22, 23 to 30. This is our input condition. This is our test case. This is what we want you to validate upon. So the next thing we are going to divide it into 5 equivalent classes. And the reason for using this technique is because I gave you an example initially. When you want to test 1 to 10, it's easier. I can take 1, test it 10, 2, 3, do it systematically. Likewise, I can say from 20 to 30, I can take it. It won't take me time. But let's put it 1 million. Let's put it 1 billion. We cannot test. If I start testing from now, I won't finish in weeks, in years. So hence, we need these techniques to help us move quickly. So hence, there are 5 equivalent parts. So instead of me to test these all things, I'm going to divide them into equivalent parts. So what it means is that If these parts are tested, hence our expectation is that subsequent parts within this partition, it should work as expected. So the first part is from down from 0, from -1, -2, -3 to 0 is an invalid scenario because it's not within it. The next condition that is valid is from 1 to 10 because it says 1 to 10 and anything within this side is not valid. 11 to 19 is out of it. So 11 to 19 is invalid. The next valid scenario here is 20 to 30. 20 to 30 is valid. After 31, 31.01 is invalid. So from 31 to 1 million is invalid, to infinity is invalid. So these are the 5 equivalent classes that we can divide this into. So you select values from each class. So let's take from the first one, I take -2. I can take -1. I will test that -1. In this first value, 1 to 10, let's say I take 5. It's still a valid scenario. 11 to 19, let's say I take 16. 20 to 30, let's say I take 21. Then 31 to end, let's say I take 31 or 31 itself. All these 5 classes is what I would test against. So I don't need to now do 20 or 50, 100 of it. With these 5, it is captured each subset, each classes, because it's been broken down. And I would test -2, 3, 15, and 25. This is how equivalent partitioning works. That takes us to boundary value analysis, which is BVA. Boundary value analysis is based on testing at the boundaries between partitions. Within the boundaries, all the boundaries where we are surrounded by water, we want to test everything around it. It includes maximum, minimum, inside, outside the boundaries. So this is what it includes, so that we can get errors, get all these values, and make sure that we got good coverage. So in this case, the values from lower boundaries and upper boundaries are considered. For example, let's take an example, an application. So in this application, an application expects only 4 digits numeric value. Here, the range is from 1000 to 999, 4 digits. That's what it entails. So here, we can start from our input from 999 to 9998. So another case will be from 1000 to 999. Another case will be from 0001 to 10,000. Because we're trying to do a subset both outside and within. Let's take 1 to 10, an example. We test the boundary of 1 to 10. We can start from -1, -2, -100, -50, -1, -2, 0, 1, 2. We go again to the middle, we can pick 5, we can pick 6. Then we go to the end, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. These are everything within the boundary. So that gives us input condition. What good? 1 to 10. Boundary value analysis, 0, 1 to 3. 0 is outside the boundary. 0 is outside the boundary. 9 is 0 is outside the boundary. 1 is within, and 2 is inside. So they are within inside the boundary. So 9 is within the boundary, is inside the boundary. 10 is at the boundary. 11 is outside the boundary. So this is how boundary value analysis works. So all this subset that I've taken is what I'm going to test. And once I test it, my expectation is that it should work. Every other thing within it should work as expected. 1 to 1 million is the same subset I'm going to take. So the next thing, it takes us to decision table technique. A decision table is also known as a cause-effect table. This software testing technique is used for functions which respond to a combination of inputs or events. For example, submit button should be enabled if user has entered all required field. If you go to some application, your login, submit button, sign in button is not enabled until all necessary and mandatory fields, in quote, mandatory fields, have been entered correctly. That is when that field is, that's when the field is enabled. So at this phase, I'm going to take an example. Let's take an example. The first task is to identify functionalities where output depends on combination of inputs. If there are large input sets of combination, then divide it into smaller subsets, which are helpful for managing a decision table. So that will take us to this example. Let's look at example of this. So I took this example to say our input condition. It's a website. You need to enter your name, email, message. That is when the submit button will be enabled. If you don't enter this one's correct, any one of the field correct, then that submit button will not be enabled. It will fail. So I took the first rule. I did rule 28. It's just mainly a combination of different true or false. So F is false, T is true. So in my rule 1, I've entered my name. I've entered name field, the name field. I've entered wrong name field. I've entered wrong email, and I did not enter wrong. I did not enter any message. I've put a wrong message. My output is that the submit button won't be enabled, so it's going to be false because I cannot do anything. I didn't put the right input. Same goes for my rule 2. My rule 2 now, I said, okay, let me try putting the correct name, which is true. I put the right name. Yemi is the right name. And I put a false email, incorrect email, and incorrect message. My output will still be false because for this to be enabled, everything has to be true. Now, my rule 3, I put a false name, I put a correct email, but I put a false message. Again, it's still false. Now, in my rule 4, I thought of it that, okay, why not put the correct thing and let's move ahead? Okay, I put the correct name, correct email, and I put a false message. It still didn't let me through. This time around, I thought of it, okay, let's put a false name, that's my rule 5, false name, false email, then true message, it still gives me a false. In my rule 6, same thing. True name, false email, true message is still false. My rule 7, false name, true email, true message, it gives me a false. Then my rule 8, I have the correct name, I have the correct email, and I have the correct message. Then everything is true. So it will enable my submit button. That's an example of decision table. That takes us to state transition. What is state transition? In this technique, the application is tested using graphical representation of different transition states of an application, which are further dependent on various features and functionalities of this application. It is primarily based on the state machine model. So an example is, let's take our example, our case study. In the following example, if the user enters a valid password in any of the first 3 attempts, the user will be able to log in successfully. If the user enters the invalid password in the first or second trial, the user will be prompted to re-enter the password. When the user enters password incorrectly 3rd time, the action as taken and the account will be blocked. Let's look at it in an example. Let's look at this diagram. So let's start the first one. This is state transition diagram. So start like this, start first trial. I'm trying to go into I want to withdraw some cash. So my first trial, I can't remember my password. Okay, my first trial, I know my password, everything. So I've given it a try. So the first time I enter it is correct PIN. I was granted an access. Let's try the second time. In my first trial, I start my first one. Oh, I missed a number. I can't remember. In the second time, I tried it. I got the number. Once I get the number, it's a correct PIN. Access will be granted. Let's go again. In my first trial, I can't remember the PIN. It was incorrect. Second trial, it was incorrect. In the 3rd trial, I remember the PIN. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic. I was granted an access. Now, first trial, I've tried it. Second trial is incorrect. 3rd trial is incorrect. The 3rd time I tried it, it's still incorrect. When I logged in, I tried to do it again the 4th time. It will give me incorrect PIN, account blocked. So this is what is going to give you to say your account has been blocked and you won't be able to. This is just a visual way of state transition diagram. And that takes us to structure-based technique. What structure-based technique is? A white box testing. Is a testing technique in which software's internal structure, design, and coding are tested to verify input-output flow and improve design, usability, and security. In white box testing, code is visible to testers, so it is also called clear box testing, open box testing, transparent box testing, code-based testing, and glass box testing. These are several names that white box testing could be called. This testing can be done at system, integration, and unit level. Still, we are still on our test level of software development. One of the basic goals of white box testing is to verify a working flow for an application. It involves testing a series of predefined inputs against expected or desired outputs, so that when a specific input does not result in the expected output, you have encountered a bug. So if it's not working as expected, if it's failing, it's a bug. So it gives us, what do you verify when you're doing white box testing? The first thing is, white box testing involves the testing of software code for the following. So one, internal security holes. So any security, for example, these are done at code level. It can be done by developers, and also our automation can pick some of these issues in the code. Broken or poorly structured parts in the coding processes, the flow of specific inputs through the code, expected outputs, the functionality of conditional loops, testing of each statement, objects, and functions on an individual basis. This is what to verify in white box testing while you are writing your automation script. How do you perform this? It's just two ways. We have divided into two basic steps to give you a simplified explanation of white box testing. And the first test is understand the source code. How do you do it? The first thing as a tester, you as a tester will often do is to learn and understand the source code of the application. If you are doing know the source code, the major where you are, understand what you want to, what you're doing. Know the source code. Let there be explanation. Let it be so simple to say, this is login, this is what is working for login, this is what is working for search functionality. Know the integration, know how things are formed, understand the application, the source code of the application. Since white box testing involves testing of the internal workings of the application, the tester must be very knowledgeable in programming language used in the application they are testing. This is why you are doing automation. A programming language will be taught in this automation in this class. I think it's either C# or Java that will be taught in this. So it's continued. Then the next thing is create test case and execute it. We know how to create it manually. It's the same format. So the second basic step of whiteboard involves testing the application source code for proper flow and structure. One way is by writing more codes to test the application source code. The tester will develop little tests for each processes. So write it in components, small component testing in modules, little by little, then start integrating them together. This method requires the tester must have intimate knowledge of the code. You can see that I keep emphasizing when it comes to white box, you need to have a knowledge of the code, and that is what you'll be taught here. And you need manual testing. There's no 100% automation. You still need to validate manually. You might get to a place where they will say, you might do an automation interview. By the time you get there, you might not automate. It might just be manual testing. You might even be the one advocating for automation. Meanwhile, they might not be able to. It depends on the kind of application you're working on. So it takes us to the last bit of it, which is experience-based testing. And in the experience-based, as the name states, the testing technique is based on testers' experience and expertise in similar applications and technologies. They are further divided into 1, error guessing, 2, exploratory. Error guessing is a software testing technique based on guessing the error which can prevail in the code. So if you know, For example, you can guess for a login, what are the errors that can prevail? We have been given a specification. It should be alphanumeric. It should have this. So should be what should come into. It should be alphanumeric. It should be 8 characters. It should have special character. These are things that are expected. So now, if you understand that, you can guess the error when you're given maybe a login functionality. After you know the valid part, you can just ask, what are the acceptance criteria? What are the expectation? How is it going to be? Is it alphanumeric? Quickly, you can take your combination. Do only alphanumeric without a special character. It shouldn't go through. Do only alphabet without only alphabet. It shouldn't go through. Only numbers. It shouldn't go through. Numbers and special character shouldn't go through. Alphabet plus number only shouldn't go. So those combination you can bring, you can easily get them because of the experience you have, because you have tested login severally. You know what is working there. The technique counts a list of possible errors or error-prone situation. The tester writes a test case to expose these errors. So, guidelines of error guessing. The test should use the previous experience of testing similar application, understanding the system on the test, so you must understand it, knowledge of typical implementation errors, remember previous troubled areas, evaluate historical data and test results. From there, these are guidelines that you can use when you're doing error guessing. What is exploratory? I've explained this initially also, but just a breaking down of it. Exploratory testing is a type of software testing where test cases are not created in advance, but testers check the system on the fly. So you are exploring it. There's no test case, ad hoc testing. You are just going there, looking at it. Okay, let me see. Let me just explore the system. They may note down ideas. You might have ideas. You know how to log in. You know how to do the set functionality. All this can be put in place when it comes to exploratory testing. Exploratory testing is widely used in agile models and is all about discovery, investigation, and learning. It emphasizes personal freedom and responsibility of individual testers. In this case, the test cases are written and executed in parallel. This technique helps identify critical bugs that may have been missed in traditional testing. So, what are exploratory testing techniques? It's not random testing, but it is ad hoc testing with a purpose of finding bugs. It's structured and rigorous. When I mean structure, rigorous, we know the application, we don't know the application, we're exploring it. So I might have used this application before, but when someone is exploring, he or she might see other bugs. It might be able to fish it out quickly. So these are things that you think about when you're doing exploratory testing. It is consecutively, that's by thinking, structured as compared to the procedural structure of scripted testing. This structure comes from chapter time boxing. Is highly teachable and manageable. It is not a technique, but it is an approach. What actions you perform next is governed by what you are doing currently. This is exploratory testing technique. That takes us to the end of the class. Thank you all for today. And we can have a Q&A session. Let me go to the class. So let's start today. Let me give you time. I won't ask you question yet. Please, the floor is open. Please, can you ask me any question regarding today's class or subsequent classes? Open the floor, please.
Hello.
You said?
Oh,
Julius?
I want to, it's Debbie. I
Okay,
want to
Debbie,
ask,
1 minute.
yes.
1 minute.
Hello?
She says she's coming, 1 minute.
Okay.
So sorry about that, please. Yes, please. Carry on.
It's all right. I want to ask, you know, when you use the GiftRate website for the example on the spreadsheet,
Yes, please.
and you talked about the green field whereby there's no website yet.
Mhm.
So how do we now know what we want to test on when there's no website? Or do we create the website first, then test it ourselves?
No. So because what good question, Debbie. So what you've asked is, like now, you all will be given a project. You will be divided into project groups. You don't know what that application is all about. But you can't wait for that website to be developed before you actually, before you can start creating your script. So what you are meant to do is that you'll be given requirement. You'll be given user story. From that user story, you will have login as one of the user story. And we can create test. You can now create your test step from that user story. It might not be as steady as this. And that's why I said later on, when the website comes in, you might think is someone like me that I thought it was
Username, yeah.
it was email address. So now you start changing that variable according to it. Now, my own might not be sign in immediately. Maybe when you do the landing page, it might tell you register. So that is the way that is going to be. But login is still the same system that we're going to use to log in everywhere. But there might be further steps to be added. I don't know what your project is all about. So I cannot say, but when you are given, you will be given information. You'll be given acceptance criteria. Then that's the one that you're going to be. What I will do is that in the next class, hopefully, I'll quickly send the admin. I would see if my Azure DevOps is still I can get the login details. Then I would log into that. Then I'll show you a user story previously. You'll see the user story. Then we can think out of the box in the next class to create it in that format. Then you will understand that we are not seeing any application. This is a requirement. Or I will look for a requirement and I will tell you to work on, let's work on that requirement. That is the way. So but because I have this one, I am trying to work on it that I'm using a live environment. If I don't have any if I don't have any live environment and login, this login scenario, I did not create it myself. This test condition, it was given to me in the user story. It will say, as a user, in order for me to be able to log in into giftread.com, I want to be able to access the login page, something like that. So I know it's talking about the login. Then the acceptance criteria, I need to say, user can log in using username or email address. That's the first criteria. They should have a valid email address. It should have a password, minimum of 8 character or maximum of 8 character. It should be alphanumeric. It should have a special character. So those criteria would have been stated there. If they are not in the acceptance criteria, ask the business analyst, what are the criteria? You have just given us how many, those are the questions that you throw back to them. Oh, really? Yes, that's it. They need to state it there so that you'll be able to that. So those are the things that you think. So it's because we have this in the I can't hear you, sorry. Is Lily glitching? Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's me. So in the next, you will be able to
Okay.
yeah. So
if I
in
may
next,
ask, so if I want to practice this now, can I use any website that I'm registered on to practice this on my spreadsheet?
No, it's not compulsory. Don't use any website that you are registered on.
Okay.
You can use any website. Okay. Let me just look for a website registered on. I'm just looking at any website. I'm just looking for a website. I don't know what's a website. I will just search for any website. Let's see if it's a website. So it's on home page. So it's a website. I'm not registered on it. I don't know what it's like. So I can't use this website to say I start creating contact, just join and set it over. I'm not maintaining some website here. But for us in this class, our assignment will be, let me look at how many people on this list. We are 24. Yeah. I can't see properly, so hence. So 24. So out of 24, we are going to write everyone separately. Designing, you don't need to interact. So you're going to do the register of this giftread.com.
Okay.
That's one assignment. The second one is the same blue sky that you have logged into, that you use in registering, that blue sky that you use in registering your application. You are going to do the login for that one. So it's 2. So you're going to do login for that one. If you're not registered, register and you log in. So it's 2 assignments. So the first assignment, giftread.com, is your, I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this.
Register for this one on our spreadsheet.
Correct.
And do the login for the blue sky.
Yes. So now, where's chat? Also, as a tester, are we to amend our wordings to align with what is used on the website we are testing, or draw us our own test cases based on the requirement? So, Abidemi, another great question. So as a tester, if you can see, I used username is two ways. The BA should provide us with the exact name that is going to be there. If not provided by her, the developers could pick it. Let's take example of login button. It could be login into the account. That's what is there. It could be login only. It could be sign in. It could be submit. We need to align our script to what we have the exact value. You don't want to have where you have sign in and you are putting submit there.
Submit.
If I pick that script, it's going to, you are the one that designed the script. The reason, okay, the reason why we want things to align is that you cannot be the only person that will own that script in an organization. We might draft people in when we are trying to meet deadlines. I can draft people in to say, come into my team, help me with the resources. My resources are lower. I will tell you, I would have written it most of the time in my plan, in my test plan. I tell is part of my contingencies, my mitigation plans is to say, I might need resources XYZ might be needed, and I will draw you in. When that time comes, I will draw you in. This is it. Take the script. So you have written the script, I've given the script to another person to execute. So now the person gets there and say, look at the script you have written. You said submit, and here it's saying sign in. It's a wrong script. So we need to align it. So you are making mistake when we can see the variables. So as those things are changing, we need to make sure our own documents to align properly. I hope you got that, Bidemi.
Yes, I do. So that means that as it will be changing when, I mean, as a team, everybody has agreed that the requirement states that, okay, it should be login and not submit.
Correct.
All right, not that because someone has put login instead of submit or submit instead of login, then we now
No. As a team, it has to look. We don't guess.
Yes.
We work with facts.
Mhm.
You understand? We work with what we are given. So if you're given login, we have to stick to the login because that name of login didn't come from the BA. It came from the client. It
Mhm.
from the stakeholders, from the owners of this. So if they want login, we have to stick to their login. So I won't say because they want login, I want to put submit. No, we are not building the product as expected. That is our verification and validation phase. Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. So,
Hello, Yemi. So
yes,
if I may ask, to create to register for the giftrate.com, the options that it's gonna give, it will be much more than the one you use on the spreadsheet.
of course, yes. Of course, yes. Of
Okay,
course,
so we
it's
should
going to
add the rest by ourselves.
you by yourself. I will only do that part just because we're in the class. So now you will add that's the idea now. And I want your spreadsheet to be more beautiful, more neat than what you see here. This naturally, this is not my own script. I won't give it the script. My script will be a page will be different, is detailed, so that I want a proud job. I want to see people's ideas. I want to see your ideas. Though I might correct you, but I love to let's correct ourselves now than when we get into the field of job. So that at least when you know it, then we all know it. So that's solid. So it's going to be more fields. It will tell you. I don't just want to say it. So, but I expect you to. You will see. It's going to give you a lot of fields. So just go by it.
Hi, Amy.
Yes, Julius. Good evening.
Good evening. Is there any way we can get the recording video of this training?
So you people have not been getting it all this day.
And yesterday's one, please.
We've been getting it's only yesterday that we haven't got.
Oh my goodness.
I guess it will be sent together with this one.
Okay, fantastic. Because the reason is that the recording, though I'm going to tell the admin, I'll remind her now that the recording of yesterday's class, as we are talking, I will tell her immediately that the recording of yesterday's class needs to be sent to QA team. So yeah, so because I don't want to forget once I leave here. Yeah, so you will get that, Julius. So sorry, I don't know how that is done, but I always believe at the end of the class, the link drops and she distributes it to you all. That's the way it's meant to be. But maybe it's just maybe she's going to send it as Debbie said. Maybe she'll send it with this one today. Sorry about that, but I'll put it to a notice. Yeah. Any other question, please?
Now, finally, you have to go on YouTube in order to see. And
Mhm.
the way
We can. I can't hear you again. Sorry. Okay. Mhm. Hello, Julius. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. What I'm saying is, to the best of my knowledge, we have to go on YouTube and look for it, which I find it difficult. Normally, I expected them to structure in a way that would be easy for us to access. And I spoke with Emmanuel about it, and he told me earlier that they are working on it. So I don't know.
So you spoke to Emmanuel about it. So curious. Can you please join this class? Can you please?
Yes, we have another class to go to now.
Yes. So yeah. So I've just told her now. So what I'm trying to tell her is that I thought she would be able to join the class, but unfortunately she hasn't replied. But anyway, I've sent it to her. So I know they will call me back once I send the message. So yes. Any other questions so that I can leave you to go to your next class, please? Any question? Do you all understand?
As for me, I have to go through it again in order to have a better understanding.
Okay, okay, no worries. So anytime you have question, do not hesitate to get in touch. I'm here to help. We have other mentors because my feeling is that at the end of this class, I want you to be, once you write your script, you write your test plan, there's nothing stopping you to start looking for a manual testing job. Once you can do it, there's nothing there's nothing stopping you from looking for a manual testing job. Because I know that job is there, is out there, and you might think it is not there. You might see the job spec, you might be scared, oh, I've not done this, but it doesn't stop us from looking for any manual testing job immediately. Even if you don't streamline it to say, oh, you know this programming language and you can start with it, honestly speaking, you will get that job. I am certain about it. Once you finish this class and you can have your hands dirty, hands on in terms of script test planning. So in the next class, I'll be taking you on the last chapter and also test management, test planning. That will be for next week. Then we can have a day for workshop. Then that ends the whole class. We are getting there. So for tonight, in the absence of no question, please make sure you do my assignment too. If I call you on the day to display your screen, I don't want any story. Please and please.
Sorry.
When is
What?
this assignment due,
Yeah.
please, for submission?
Today is which today
So we can work on it.
no the next so next week now is our is the next class. So next week, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if everything goes by good and I'm able to finish that class and do that, I will want to see the script because you still have another assignment, which is the great one, test plan and test strategy that you need to design. So those key things, I would love to see it next week. If I don't see it next week, but do it before next week, do it by next week. So that when you do it by next week, upper week will just be our workshop. Everybody will display whatever they have. This time around, it's not that you will do it, you will display it to the class and we all correct ourselves. That's it. Yes, Adeshaya, please, can you go on?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for the lecture. I just wanted to confirm the assignment is to design test cases for Blue Sky registration page, right?
Correct. Registration page and login page. Blue Sky login page.
And registration page. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, two of them. If it's Blue Sky, look, if you cannot do gift treat, even if it's Blue Sky, do Blue Sky. Once I see the idea, I see the way you have done it, I will know that, yes, you know what you're doing. That's it. Julius, you have raised your hand again. And let me have you.
Yes, sorry to trouble.
No.
Okay, you said something. You said the job are available out there. There are not many jobs out there at the moment, which I'm very much aware of.
They are not what?
No many jobs out there.
There are not many jobs.
Out there, yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes, yes.
Don't say that. I am certain. And let me tell you, once it's April of every year, it's a new year, like in
Yes.
the United Kingdom.
Yes.
A lot of, I don't apply for jobs because I don't apply for a job because I have got a job. I've been working on, I have a job. But let me tell you, today alone, I said I did not, my CV is not active. Today alone, at least 3 or 4 people have called me. I did not apply. Do you understand me? So when they call me, when I tell them, I still go with the flow. Likewise, I push the same thing to my network in terms of people like us within the team to say, you are prepared, you go for it. That's the way it is. Those are the people that called me. But if I open my email today, every word I would have seen like almost 30 jobs coming through to me. Personal email. So I don't, if you say there are no jobs, I don't want to believe that.
No, I said there are not many jobs. Compared to this time last year, there are lots of jobs.
Oh no, no, Julius, you're the one thinking there are. Spread your search. Are you based in the UK?
Yes.
You are based in the UK.
Yes.
Go to different job serve now. Register your CV. But it depends on what you have on your CV. If your CV is not getting you a good call, then your CV is not at that level yet. Do you understand it? Your CV has to be standard. It has to be at that level where it is. There are things that are needed. There are buzzing words needed in the CV. So it is different. It's different. So you might think there are not many jobs, but I can tell you there are jobs. There are jobs. Don't say there are not many jobs. There are jobs, you might think. And this is part of the new year. And this time around, a lot of things are coming out. If I can't, it's because I'm online. I cannot name organizations. I can tell you, I cannot name them. So even where I am, I know they need a lot of people. So those are things, but you can't. It is a way that it works. Just go online, register to different job serve. When you register, at the end of the day, every week, every day, if you put your CV, at least if people don't call you Monday, Tuesday, no, there is something wrong with the CV, change it again. Look at it, ensure that your CV is up to date and put the right things there. They do CV training here. Please give it to someone to check that CV for you. That's not my CV. If that CV is not bringing you calls, then there's a big problem. We need to work on that CV. Yeah. So I know. I tell Wumi, speak to Wumi, then I'll speak to you, please.
Okay.
Speak to Wumi, then I can speak to you later.
Thank you.
Because all this are being recorded, so I won't really like to talk much about it. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. In the absence of no question,
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. See you next week. Do my assignment, please. Do my assignment.
We'll
I'm
do
going to please do my assignment. Thank you. Thank you all. Good night.